I decided to diversify a little bit. It's not going to be a Benchmade today. What I got here is a Hogue EX01. And it's an Alan Elishewitz design knife. And it's a beauty. So that's the manual version. It's not the auto. I went ahead and got a manual. Perhaps some point I'll get an auto. And I'm kind of going to throw it up against this Microtech SOCOM Elite auto. But I'll kind of do some numbers and facts and such for the manual. Pretty much the same exact. Heck, even the weights are the same between the two, the manual and the auto. But as far as this guy, it's got an overall length of 8.875, blade length of 4, blade thickness of 1500ths, and it's 154 cm. And their Rockwell hardness is slightly lower than Benchmade's, 154. So I got this one out as well. Kind of comparison. Handle length of 4.875, which would make sense, obviously, and a weight of 5.6. So fairly heavy. This is 5.8. So it's just a couple tenths less. And it's a big bastard too. So actually it's kind of more efficient this because it actually weighs less than that Benchmade AFO, and it's bigger. I mean, kind of substantially bigger, at least the blade. And then as far as like if you wanted the G10 version of this, it's actually going to cost you a little bit more, $203 compared to about 186 for this going rate. So the G10 is, 203, and the G10 version weighs 5.2 ounces, whereas this weighs 5.6, so 4/10 of an ounce less, a little bit more money. It's kind of interesting to me. The G10 is a little bit more expensive, but hey, whichever you prefer. So as far as the SOCOM Elite Auto, and then the manual as well, overall 9 inches, 4-inch blade length, same as that Hogue. Blade thickness 1900, so it is a little bit thicker. That's still a thick blade though. Handle length 5, and a weight of 4.58 ounces, and that's the same for the auto and the manual. And there you go. So I kind of put these up here together because, I mean, they're both, like, I was blown away by the quality of this knife. And this knife, actually, when I got it. Now, this goes for, like, high 200s, low 300s still. I think when I bought it, they're, like, it was a couple years ago. I think they're like 285, I think. Now, they might be upwards of 320, but they have so many versions of these. None of them are available, I don't think, right now. I can find any. I'm just kind of going off what they had listed as the last price. So 186, we'll just say 300. So you save some money here. The auto version goes for 229. So, and the quality of craftsmanship, I think, are the same. I just got this yesterday, though. I carried it all day yesterday, and then up till now today, it's not quite noon yet. But I did do a little whittling with it last night. I have been carrying it. I got a couple thoughts, and I'll get into those. Generally, I'd say 99% positive, or 98% for me, for what I look for in a field knife. And then this is probably not designed for what I normally go for, but it's close. And this, for that matter, either. So maybe it'll be kind of a comparison with this, though this is kind of tentative. I have another one of these as my user. This one I honestly don't really use a lot. I got like a tan one that I use a lot. But I had this one on hand, so it's in here. The other one's at home. I'm still on the road, and I got a day off from firefighting. And we all know it's been a very busy season. So I kind of order knives and get excited when they show up when I get off. So yesterday I did a little whittling with this, checked it out. I guess we'll go through it. First of all, I mean, it's a damn awesome design. It's a push button or a plunge lock manual knife with nice thumb studs, nice located thumb studs. Perfect centering. It's really bright out, so I can't really tell what's showing up here on focus too well. It's got a safety, which I, lukewarm on. I guess it's nice because when you are using this push auto, sometimes if you're up here reefing on stuff, it's never happened to me, but it could happen. So basically, you got that thing engaged, push the button, nothing happens. Very smooth too. Great action. I mean, this thing is just a beautiful, well-constructed knife, and I'm kind of impressed with the price I paid for it. So I will jump into the negatives real fast, get those out of the way, because they're not negatives. This is just my personal opinion on this, because like I said, I love it. And Elishewitz, I know he worked for, he did a bunch of designs for Benchmade back in the day, like the Striker for one thing, and other ones too, but that Striker is one of my favorite models, both automatic, which I will someday get. I've never actually used one, but I do have a manual Striker, like a line lock Striker, and the axis lock Striker, which they've discontinued both, but at least they still have the auto version. So I'll start with this, and it's not necessarily negative. I'm sure other people have touched on these in their videos, but the pocket clip, it works good. It works great. Can't complain. It's just a little big and bulky, and obviously it looks like a big spoon. In fact, I think they call it a spoon clip, so it's kind of goofy looking. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it put me off for buying one, because I also noticed the hole pattern. I wouldn't really be able to put a Benchmade clip on here, which are my favorites. Case in point, this bad boy. Just your standard three-holer. Standard clip, my favorite. If they did take that, I'd throw an Emerson clip on here or a Benchmade. But it's got a nice oversized stop pin, cool design with that plunge lock. And the detent is actually part of the blade, and it hooks into the plunge lock when it comes back around. So I don't know if you'll be able to see that. I know, whatever, I'm holding the camera. I'm sure there's some other videos out there that address that same thing. It's a pretty cool design though. I like it. The only problem, and probably the only honest all-around negative, I don't know if you can hear that, but the detent is not tight, and it's really easy to deploy that thing, which is not a bad thing unless you drop it and it opens up. Very easy just to flip that thing open. It's very smooth, definitely positive, but there is that rattle in there. There's a lot of play. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but there's a lot of play in there in that detent, which I don't know if somebody else has a Hogue like this or has had one. Experienced the same thing. Maybe they're all like that. I don't know. I kind of consider it a negative, but it doesn't affect it when it's open, and that's when it counts. All right, so I kind of, the clip's maybe not 100% positive, and that detent, though cool design, hooking the bottom of that blade around the plunge lock bar, I think is cool. Unfortunately, just a little loose. But maybe that's just part of the design. And they're all like that. Either way, it doesn't affect my overall look of the knife by any means. I love this thing. So I did have a dry piece of, where I'm around, there's not a whole lot of stuff. I don't really want to go out. There's a lot of poison oak out in the bush around here. Yeah, but it's extremely dry. I did have like a willow from home that I kind of use to hold up a side window in my shell sometimes. So I had that, so I whittled on that a little bit. Great. Oh, and another thing, so it's got really good geometry for that sort of thing. I did cut up some cardboard with it because I had to get rid of a box, it was light cardboard, sliced right through it. But it's the only knife I think I've ever gotten, hopefully this comes out, you can kind of see a little reflection there, that the edge is polished. Now you get these others, actually maybe Microtech was kind of the same way, they did a pretty good job with that, but I don't think as good as this Hogue. Benchmade, they sand theirs, I think, with the sander, belt sander. They're sharp, no complaints. Spyderco's the same thing, most of their knives the same thing. You just get that kind of belt chatter on there, and eventually you sharpen it out yourself. No big thing, but they did go the extra mile on this. Extremely sharp, extremely well polished. Cool. You can tell they definitely used polishing compound on it. You can see that secondary bevel. Maybe you can kind of see where it has been polished, but then also the edge is definitely nicely finished. So that's cool. Now, this knife is designed to stab communists. I think that they sell this to the U.S. military. And when I say communists, I'm kind of joking. You can do whatever you want where you're at. Maybe domestic communists. So, American communists, maybe. Domestic, stateside. It's a good knife for that. I think that's the primary design. It's kind of a self-defense military type knife. Now, here's a niggle on that. I don't expect this thing to be a bushcraft knife. That's not how it's marketed. It's not what it was designed for. But the handle might not be the most comfortable for high torque cutting. I can just squeeze this thing. I think I can detect some hot spots. I'll come back later and do a good review on this because it is going to be out in the field and it's going to be used for everything. That's what I got it for. I really like 154 cm. So I'll see how theirs stacks up against Benchmade's, which I've always been happy with. So I'll get a better feel for that. So far, I do think it's just not designed for that. Now, one thing with the handle, and like I said, I love this knife. And I know it's designed for it. It's not exactly what I normally carry. Like a good example of what I like is, well, here's a cold steel Voyager. I think it's built for everything, but it's built for the bush. And this isn't bad either. These are great, honestly. The handle is tapered, just like this one was. It's been pointed out in videos in the past. Thicker here, tapers down here, thin. Kind of does the same thing here, a little thicker here, and it does taper down. What that does is it means if you were to stab or to thrust cut, you're not going to come up on that blade. And that's what it's designed for. So that's good. It's just not quite the most high torque all day cutting as a lot of these others. Surprisingly enough, this doesn't look this looks, it's tapered too. It's aluminum, it's kind of boxy, but it's extremely comfortable, extremely ergonomic. FYI, if you were comparing these two knives together, you go either way. I do really like a manual push button though. I think it's a cool idea. It's the only knife company I know of that does that. I'm sure the plunge lock's been around for a long time, but I've only seen them in automatic knives. And these things are like upwards of 10 years old. This design's been out for a long time. I became aware of them maybe a few years ago, and I'm glad I finally pulled the trigger and picked one up. So, beautiful aluminum, beautiful hardware, beautiful fit and finish. Can't say whether or not that D10 is a fit and finish thing. Maybe they're all like that. I don't know. One thing I don't necessarily like, lanyard. I don't really use a lanyard a whole lot. I do on these because they're tipped down. Because if they're tip up, I don't know why anybody would put a lanyard on. It's just going to snag on bushes if you're outside, or something else, or somebody could snag it right out of your pocket. So tip down, yeah, because you can always hang it on a carabiner, hang it on a tree limb or something, whatever. And then also there's that. It seems like it's a place for just gunk to collect. And same with these. If you were to go clean your knife, I don't know why. It's just a design thing, aesthetics, I guess. I just don't see it as being functional. These little like vent holes or something. It just seems like stuff could get in there in your pocket, or when you do go to clean it out. If you're cutting food, you get food stuff stuck in there. In my opinion, the best design. And they've kind of fucked it up with this new AFO2. But the old AFO was solid. You just take a Q-tip and you can wipe the whole thing out. It's just solid, smooth aluminum inside, and that's it. Q-tip, perfect fit. Drag it out. Anyway, nickels. Beautiful knife. Definitely when they pick up an auto at some point. And they also have plastic versions that are cheaper, or like Norl GTX type material, a little lighter weight probably, and it's still tough, so you're calling that. That's pretty much all I could think of for now until I actually get it out in the field and use it. But it's a beautiful knife, different company from Benchmade, though a lot of Hogues, man, they seem to be copying a lot of what Benchmade does. They even copy the axis lock and Yeah, it seems like there's a few other things, but this is a button lock. Nobody else does it that I'm aware of. So that's cool. Been out for a long time, still making it. I'm happy that they are. It's a good, proper, big drop point blade, and good geometry on it too for how thick it is. Good geometry on that one too. So I mean, if you're looking at both of these are obviously $100 less or so than the Microtech. But sorry, I got a text message there. But either way you go, a little heavier, a little lighter weight, but quality of craftsmanship, as far as I can see, are pretty much spot on with both of them. I think that's all I got. Hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe I'll do another close-up. So I'm pretty stoked with this thing. I think eventually I'll do a side-by-side comparison with a Benchmade I'm thinking of. But thanks for watching. Have a good one.